everybody, and welcome to the September 6th, 2023 Community Preservation Committee meeting. This meeting is being conducted live and by remote participation pursuant to the executive order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law signed by Governor Baker, taking effect March 12th, 2020, and subsequently extended through March 31st, 2025 under Governor Healy. I'm going to ask that anybody who can please stand and pledge allegiance to the flag before we begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can I have a motion to open the meeting, please? Thank you, Rich. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second, Dwight. Everything's going to be by roll call tonight because we're in a mixed meeting. So, Dwight?
Yes.
Michael? Barrett?
Yes.
John Morton?
Yes.
Rich? Yes. And the chair votes yes. That constitutes four. Chairman's report. I have just two things. This past week, one of our members, Larice Rubel, lost her brother Alan, and the chair of the finance committee, Vaughn Okian, lost his mother, Kathy, this week. So I'm going to ask that we take a brief moment of silence. May those folks rest in peace. We do, gentlemen, online have a sympathy card we'd like to send to Larice, remembering her brother and sending condolences from the Community Preservation Committee. Just want to sort of get a feel from you. You okay with just myself signing it on behalf of the committee? Is that appropriate?
Yes.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's a good idea too.
So we'll take care of that. Yeah, Barry had mentioned he thought it would be appropriate, seeing how Larice has been with us a very long time, that we send a small bouquet of flowers, paper out of the administration account. Is there any opposition to that?
Not for me.
Hearing nothing, we're gonna go ahead and have Barry do that, okay? All right. With that said, administrative support there.
Yep. Couple of things briefly. Got an email from an organization called Ecopreneur. I wasn't sure exactly why they contacted me. What they do is they connect volunteers with people working on projects. Some may be looking for volunteers on, for example, cleaning up trails, open space, doing just general odds and ends, maybe working on settings, community gardens. Those are the things that are coming. So they asked if I wanted to meet with them online. So did one of them is run by the two young gentlemen, one of them from Stoughton. And at any rate, the way it works is they need, I thought it'd be best if they agreed that they work with the school to if they choose to set up their a way to basically home base for people to sign up. The way it works is they are not a nonprofit, they're a farm profit. That's how the business model works. Whoever holds the list basically schools pays a certain fee, I guess, per month to set it up. So I refer to this. And that's all to say. I think that's it.
That's it. Michael, anything on the treasurer's side of things?
No, I have not done anything with any information. I'll get an update in the next couple of months from Bill to get us on spending year to date and whatnot.
So actually, you're gonna have to get that from Mary Beth. Bill has retired.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, so, might wanna get that in a little bit ahead of time. There might be additional time needed. Mary Jane, I'm sorry, Mary Jane. I think she's serving as the interim right now, Michael, so. You know, the
Yeah,
sooner the
okay.
better.
She's
Yeah.
usually, she often is the one who responds anyway when I send things to Bill.
Okay, just be aware, he's not there and it's gonna be a
Yeah, no,
little.
I did not know that. Good for him.
Nor did I.
I didn't know that either. We should send him a card of thanks for the good work he did for us for so many years.
He did do a lot of work up in that.
He's always been very helpful.
Yes, let's see if Barry can find a way to send him something from us. How's that? Simple card.
Yes,
I think
Sounds
he
good.
should be, he should be recognized and thanks for his work, very good work.
Sure, agreed.
If I can't find his home address, I can always send it.
Yeah, we could send it to the town hall and have them forward it. All right, so, next item is public comments. Are there any members of the public here who would like to speak? If so, please unmute yourself or stand if you're in the room. Okay, hearing nothing, we're going to move on to item 6. First item in new business, and this is a pre-application from Hebrew Senior Life, Senior Housing Project. I know tonight with us, we have Deborah Morse and counsel Mr. Barry Crimmins with us, and I apologize, come on up a little forward, pull your chairs forward. You can introduce yourself to all of us.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Take your time.
Yeah, let me pull this table out, and that way we can all fit around this one. Yeah. But we can all fit around this
Whatever works for you.
Wherever you wanna.
There we go. We're pretty informed.
Wherever you wanna. All right, we're good.
All right. I don't know, does this mean I have my back to the members?
No, I got you.
Oh,
I'm smarter than you.
thank you. It's your face, Ethan. Hey,
Yeah.
well, good evening, members of the Community Preservation Committee, both those here in attendance tonight in person, as well as my former colleagues that have tuned in remotely. For the record, Attorney Barry Crimmins of 909 Washington Street in Stoughton, here on behalf of Hebrew Senior Life regarding their pre-application for an affordable senior housing project that you're going to hear more about momentarily from these folks who you want to hear more from them than you do from me. However, I would be remiss if I didn't say it's a pleasure to be back in front of the committee that I served on for many years.
hi, Barry.
I like, and especially on this application. This is something, as you all know, affordable senior housing that's been near and dear to my heart for many years, both during my tenure on the committee, as well as during the time that I've served on the Stoughton Housing Authority, along with your fellow member, Donald Brady. I was just mentioning how one of the last times that I ran for re-election on the Housing Authority, I made a commitment to Colleen Doherty, our director, that I would stay on for as long as it takes for us to finally produce some additional senior housing in the town, for which, as you all know, there is a drastic need. And we can speak briefly about that in a moment. But I'm thrilled to be associated with this project. There have been several meetings already for the folks that you'll hear from momentarily to kind of tee up this application. This is our first formal meeting before any board as part of the pre-application process. And certainly, as you all know, and hopefully with this board's blessing, we'll be following up shortly with a full application with the intent on getting on the warrant for the 2024 annual town meeting.
FY 25, I think.
It's May of 2020.
Yeah.
For fiscal 25, but yeah, so the May 24 annual town meeting. I'll just mention very briefly, and then I'll turn it over to the folks to my right, more specific comment. For those that aren't familiar with the site is located on the corner of Canton Street and Simpson Street. The one member who's very familiar with the location, the old Lipsky Farm property, and which right now is vacant piece of property. It is owned by Hebrew Senior Life, or an entity under the control of Hebrew Senior Life. And as I said, we are very excited to move forward with this project. We are seeking not only the blessing of this committee, but we will be seeking funding, obviously, from this committee as well to support the project as we move forward. With that, Mr. Chairman, I don't want to take any more time. I'd like to turn it over to our Chief Operating Officer of Senior Living, Ms. Kim Brooks, who will talk a little bit more about the project and will introduce the other folks here tonight.
Thank you very much. So before I get started, actually, why don't we just do an introduction so you know who's here. Deb Morris, Vice President of Real Estate. Thank you.
I'm Rick Yoshilo, Director of Asset Management, Senior Life. Thank you for having us.
So I'm just going to take a few minutes to give you a little bit of a general overview of Senior Life and who we are, and your technical, and look forward to working with you. And then I'll turn it over to Deb to speak more specifically about this project.
The audio is not great from wherever your mic is or whatever is happening there.
You know, it might be tough for her to pick it up. I'll move it a little closer to
I'll
it.
get a little closer. How's that? Any better?
That's better, yeah.
Okay, great. So just a little bit about Hebrew Senior Life. We are a nonprofit organization, Massachusetts-based. We have been around for over 100 years, so we have a long history of providing services to seniors. We serve just under 4,000 older adults every day. We do that. Sorry. We do that across 6 main campuses in and around the Boston area, and we have a number of different services. So everything we do is focused on seniors, but we're in a lot of different businesses to do that. So everything from independent living to assisted living to long-term care to home and community-based services. We have a home health operation and a hospice. And then a very robust research and teaching division as well. So in the area of research, it's all focused on aging-related topics. And then in the area of teaching, we teach about 600 to 700 people every year that come through our system for either they're in they might be in a physician program, doing a fellowship, they might be nurses, social workers, physical therapists, so all different disciplines. And over the last few years, our focus in growth has been really around affordable supported housing. We have as an organization about 1,000 units of affordable housing already in Brookline, Randolph, and Revere. And we focus our growth there because, one, there's such a significant need for it. If you haven't read, articles continue to come out about the great need for more senior housing. And for us, it's a very strong focus on supportive services. So not merely a roof over the head, but really all of the services that people need to stay independent in the community for as long as possible. So we work really hard to partner with community organizations to leverage the fact that we have multiple people living under one roof, that we bring the services in efficiently, effectively, and really try to wrap around whatever people need so that they can stay in that setting. And then before I turn over to Deb, I guess the other point I just want to make, sometimes when we announce ourselves and say we're Hebrew Senior Life, people say, oh, if you only spoke Jewish people, No, we have a very broad organization. We serve people of many faiths, many religions, many cultures. We are rooted in Jewish history, and we're very proud of all of our beliefs and history that we have as an organization. We serve a very broad population. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a sense of who we are. And as I know we've talked to some of you individually, and you may know, I mentioned some of our communities. We also have a community in Canton, very nearby. We have a community in Dedham as well, and then our home office and flagship here in Roslindale. And we work really hard as a provider to partner with the communities that we're in and to make sure that we're meeting the needs of that specific community. So we don't come in with, here's what we have, one size fits all. It's really about making sure that we're partnering with the place that we're coming into and leveraging that, certainly to bring more services to the people that are our hopefully that gives you a little bit of a sense of who we are, and that'll turn over to you to talk a little more about this.
Just, underscoring his points and Barry's point. Really the first thing we did when we started sexualizing in a affordable housing community here in Stoughton was meet with Colleen Doherty, the executive director of the Stoughton Housing Authority. She has a community that's literally next door to the land that we own. She shared with us that there's 3,600 seniors on her waiting list. And so for us, the singular most important thing is that any community that we develop here serves seniors so. Otherwise, what's the point? So we will pursue with the state and within fair housing regulations that up to 70% of all the new units that we build here will be set aside for residents, income-eligible residents. So whether it's people from Colleen's waiting list or other seniors who are living in a home that they simply can't afford or shouldn't be in anymore, they're just not. It would be better for them to live in a community that we provide. That is our intent. To provide housing for income-eligible residents living still. What we aspire to do is to create an affordable housing of around 200 units with something close to 4,000 square feet of space on land, as Barry indicated, that we actually own. We don't need to buy the land. We don't need to execute a complicated purchase and sale with all the expense that might entail. We own the land. We've done a lot of due diligence already on this land. We've done a wetland delineation. We've done a survey. We're about to initiate environmental review to understand the environment, to the extent there are any environmental issues on the site. And we have an architectural team under contract to us who is looking at different ways of how the buildings might look and interact with the surrounding neighborhood, and obviously be in the character here in Stoughton. You have sort of two somewhat high-rise buildings in Stoughton, the high school, which I went to look at earlier today, and the library. We want to make sure that we're keeping sort of the heights of those two buildings, that we're not doing something much higher than that, while trying to provide as much affordable housing and respect the open space that's there. We want there to be walking trails. We want the landscaping. So we have, we have pretty ambitious plans for this land. As Kim mentioned, we have had extraordinary success leveraging funds from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and other projects that are under construction right now. Here, what we would be looking at is for every dollar of Stoughton funds, we would be leveraging $40 from the state and private equity. So it's sort of a 1 to 40, which is pretty extraordinary leverage situation, I think, sort of in my experience. Ideally, as Barry said, we would front of at your town meeting in May of 2024, so that we could be prepared to submit what's called a pre-application state in October of 2024. The gating items to doing that are site control, check, and then zoning approval, which we will get started on now, and a local funding. So that's the start of it. And the other thing I'd just like to mention, the people that we've worked with out of town, Mark Tisdale, Bill Roth, and others, have been extraordinarily helpful. They're very, very smart in this space, and every time we reach out to them, they're giving us fantastic feedback and advice. And we anticipate first week in October, having moved through our design and engineering process sufficiently that we would want to meet with them again and other department heads, police, fire, conservation commission, and really kind of get down to brass tacks about some of the engineering challenges and some of our design. But they've been great. And every time we come to them, they're just very open and helping us. And of course, Barry. So.
Yeah, you want to speak to our class, these are the project costs and the pay that.
Yeah. Thank you. Sure. So we're looking at 200 plus or minus unit development, which we're going to split into two phases. It's just not possible within the Commonwealth funding system to do an entire 200 unit project at once. Each phase is about $54 million. And that number is only going to go up just as inflation and other things. So that's where we are, we're sitting today. And we base that on cost of projects that are in construction now. We are requesting for the first phase will be, about 105 units, plus some part of that community space I mentioned. We're requesting $1.3 million CPC out of a likely total ask of about $2 million. So because it's likely that much of the community space and almost all of the site infrastructure is going to be done in phase one, we're sort of front loading our request to you with respect.
So if I may, Deborah, the second phase, you're thinking, not holding you to, but you're thinking that second phase, is less than the process itself.
Yes, approximately, yes.
700 million.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna say my opinion.
Well, I'm trying to ensure that I've had this conversation.
Yes, I think that's good for you.
So we're looking at 700 to $1 million for the second phase. 1.3 for the first. Continue.
I'm open to, I
Okay.
don't know if Barry, you want to guide me.
No, I think
Okay.
in the interest of time, and the procedural phase that we're in with the pre-application phase,
Yeah.
well,
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, one more part.
okay, Ricky,
Yeah.
please, Ricky.
So another important aspect of thank you. So another important aspect of the project has to do with sustainability and green design. So we're working closely with the architectural team to incorporate passive house design, which will exceed some of the initial green elements that most construction housing to date encompasses. So in keeping with that aspect of promoting quality, efficient and healthy homes, we want to ensure that the sustainability aspects that reduce energy efficiency, make it more comfortable for seniors living in this community to enjoy quality housing and enrich services as well as Kim mentioned.
Thank you, Ricky. And before I open it up to the members of the board, the point of tonight's pre-application is to get a sense from the Community Preservation Committee as a whole as to their interest in seeing more about this project. So you're not being asked to make decisions. This is also a good opportunity for you to pose any questions to HSL that they can come back and have answers for on the full application. So if you're all set for the moment, I'd like to open it up to members. Do members have any questions? John Morton, you raised your hand. You're so quick. It's like watching you on Jeopardy, you know?
Did I win a prize?
Go ahead.
I understand we're at the concept level of contemplation, but I have some conceptual questions. Is this to be an independent living condition or an assisted living condition or both?
So this is intended to be independent living, with supportive services. So there will definitely be services available to people. We have, we will have fitness programs and a programming coordinator that will make sure that there are enriching activities and programs for people. There may be some sort of, dining option or access to food option. So a lot of supportive services and a lot of connection to community resources, but not licensed as assisted living. This is independent housing.
All right, thank you for that. The next question is, what will be the range of cost of entry for the participating seniors?
So there'll be no cost of entry. Residents will pay rent based on their income. So if they have no income, they'll pay no rent, and the unit they will live in will be fully subsidized through government. Some residents, the maximum rent will be plus or minus about $1,500 to $1,600 a month. The residents will pay somewhere between zero and that amount of money each month, depending on their own personal income. But there's no
Will there be options in terms of the size of the units available?
Most of the units will be one bedrooms of around 620 square feet. The units that will be accessible to people in wheelchairs will be a little larger, closer to 640 square feet, so that there's full turning radius. We haven't landed yet, and we want to actually talk to Colleen and look at their wait list. We haven't landed yet on whether there'll be any 2-bedroom units, but most of them will be 1 bedroom.
And one last question, will there be transportation provided for things like medical and pharmaceutical issues?
So we do have transportation programs at all of our other communities, and we would seek to have a transportation program here. As we get further along in the concept and program development and, the budgeting and putting all that together, it'll help us determine, how robust that transportation can be. But whether we provide it ourselves or whether we leverage other existing resources, we will make sure that people can get to and from where they need to get for medical appointments, grocery store, other essentials.
John, did you freeze or are you there?
Either really still or he's.
Yeah, I was thinking really still. I think he froze. Well, we're waiting to see if he comes back. I just have a couple of follow-ups to the questions. When it comes to, you had spoken of the cost of their rent will be determined based on their income. How do you go about determining income? And what I mean is, more specifically, we have an elderly couple, they sell their home, they want to move into one of these units. Does the dollars that they collect from the sale of their home, which could be a good deal, certainly in this market, will that affect how much they have to pay? And as that decreases, does that also increase the sub?
There is sort of an asset test. We don't, if someone sells their home, the full value of that asset is not counted as income from rent, but there are federal sort of calculations like that. As people's incomes change over time, they will come to our property manager, and if their income goes down, their rent will be adjusted downward. And typically, they're supposed to do it if their income goes up, but that doesn't always happen.
But that,
Doesn't often happen.
it's not.
Right.
And they'll go through an annual process to make sure that, check everything and look at their income.
You do have an annual
Yes,
process
we
for
do.
that. So there's a review process that people can enter into.
In my, if I may add,
Yeah, please.
That's not unlike what the housing authority does. So
Correct.
And
But I wasn't sure.
There's the initial eligibility portion, right? Income not exceeding a certain amount. And then as Deb mentioned, their rent is also based on their income. And that's exactly what we do with the housing authority. And as Kim mentioned, there's annual research. If somebody hits the lottery,
Sure.
you know, they're no longer eligible.
My only concern is, you know, a lot of people in this town are in that position where their only asset is their home. So if they sell their home for, we'll just use a number, 600,000, does that negatively impact their ability to come in here, knowing they're basically getting $18,000 a year from Social Security, which isn't a lot of money, as we all know. I'm trying to figure out how that balance works for those people so that they can come into this.
Let us, work on that. And
Yeah.
We'll respond in writing exactly. how
That would be
works.
great. As I say, this is sort of to give you an idea of where our thoughts are on this collectively. And the last follow-up question was about the 2 bedrooms. What would they need for a 2 bedroom?
Sometimes people do it with a caregiver.
What kind of picture?
In a property that we're just about to start occupancy in Worcester, there are there's two 2-bedroom units, and it's often a grand which is going to be for us, because we have to make sure that we're taking care of the child.
Yeah, and that's an interesting balance.
It's, again, I keep going back to my experience with housing authority. It's not entirely uncommon that even a husband and wife have a situation where they're not technically in the same bedroom. So
Because he snores like a, yeah. Dwight, you have some questions? Thank you.
First a comment. I mean, I love the idea. It's a very interesting site. We've done a lot historically on the stuff that's been there, from the Robert Porter Farm to War Gardens and World War I were there. That's the good side. The downside, as we all know, is there was land underneath the plume of stuff from Brookfield Engineering and other entities, you know, for a long time, were issues underneath that land. So just a heads up, I'm sure you already know that to kind of sell this site, especially to Stoughton people, there has to be reassurance that, you know, tests have been done, the land is okay to build on, because it's, in the past, there's been some nasty stuff underneath the soil there.
Thank you, Dwight. Anything beyond that, or is that it for now?
No, but otherwise, I'm very pleased to use this land, which has sat there and I thought should have been used possibly for, you know, fire stations or whatever. And I think even CPC, John Morton, had a proposal in front of us that we buy that land way back in the day, and we didn't for whatever reason. But I am thrilled with the idea that that land can be used for the kind of thing, for the kind of housing we haven't been able to support based on our finances. So, you know, there are details to be worked out, but in general, I'm very enthusiastic and will support it as much as I can.
Thank you, Dwight.
Thanks, Dwight.
Rich just put his hand up, and Michael, I'm gonna get to you next. Okay.
Okay.
Go first. Go ahead.
I'm really in favor of this project. Here now, talk about. That property is about 25 acres, I believe. It's too straight, but it's on parallel, Gannett Street on back. Perpendicular. Close to.
I'm having trouble hearing whatever he's saying.
Yeah.
Where would you put the house? And would it be attached, detached, 2-story, 2-story?
After doing our wetlands investigations, I think the best location housing is really finding and street with the sides, street respecting that. We are looking at options that are somewhere between 4 and 6 stories high, which again allows us to maximize the number of affordable units that will be available to us in Stoughton, and creates a really important space.
So it could be building where Mr. Lipsky home used to be.
Yeah.
She may not know where that was.
I don't know
Rich,
where
but-
that
Yeah.
No one feels well, Mr. Lipsky, or his black and chasing me out of there.
Put up a plaque. Put up a plaque. You can help us design a plaque.
Very, very.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate some of the same comments I just heard. I think as a committee, we have long thought to be able to do something in the affordable housing realm. So I think this is a great project for us to go forward with. Like the questions that John and Mark asked, particularly on the financing and being very transparent of everything, the more information we can give and then condense the town meeting, boy, this will be a much easier sell. Of course, that applies to CPC meeting as well, but I'm very confident that we'll get there. So again, I just want to reiterate my support going forward as well.
Thank you, Michael. Just so everybody's aware, John Lorton lost his connection, but he is on speakerphone right now with us, just so everybody's aware of that. So I have just a couple more questions, if I may. You had spoken earlier about services. Any chance, to give you an example, it's easier. I'm living there, so I break my head. Does HSL intend on having coordinating capacity for services for temporary situations?
Right, so we, in typical supportive housing environment, and this is basically for here, we would have what's called a resident service coordinator or wellness coordinator. That person usually has a social work background, and they're on site, they're full-time, and they're dedicated to helping coordinate with people, whatever they might need. So in the example you just gave, somebody breaks a hip, maybe they go out to the hospital, we would help coordinate their transition back, whether they go to rehab first. We actually have rehab, so if they wanted to access ours, we can coordinate with our own or another one that they might like closer in the area, closer to right here. And then we help coordinate, make sure they get home, make sure they get the right home care set up so that they get home care coverage. And again, we would look to partner, with the town. We know that the town, Janice, and we understand that there's like DNA kind of built in. So that's a service that we Stoughton, or we could partner with existing services.
Or even supplement.
Or supplement, exactly. And then I guess just to take that one example a little further, we then would have on-site fitness. And often what happens is then the home care team kind of turn things over to our fitness director, who can work with that resident on a long-term basis to make sure that they're continuing whatever exercise regimen might.
Excellent. Now this is you're anticipating a comprehensive project, correct? Just for full transparency, when you come in with your full application, I think the CPC and the public needs to understand what the full investment by the community is. So if you're going to be looking for any tips or tips, tax breaks, that sort of thing, it would be really helpful for us to know what our total investment is, rather than piecemealing in. I have found my experience here is the more information I get people, even when it's not stuff they want to hear, it's good because it kind of takes that rougher argument off the table. So you may not have a full answer, but if you could give us a sense of what that looks like, that would be helpful. I actually met Barry 4 years ago when I started this with this very question: how do we bring real affordable senior housing to Stoughton? Here we are 4 years later, welcome to municipal work, but at the end of the day, I'm very excited to have a project that will benefit our seniors. We've attempted to get some other things here, but they all had kind of some rough edges we weren't, as a town, really happy with. I'm excited about this project. Having your abutters, your neighborhood in favor of this goes a long way too. the test. We can fill this room and then some with angry people if you don't talk to the neighbors, so we obviously encourage. Yeah, please.
I have a question. You mentioned the demographics of your. With the cities. Do any of your road sites have first responders on site to deal with that road that have being utilized solely on the town's?
So in a community like this, we probably would not have, wouldn't have CPR certified 24-hour responders on site. It would take a lot more volume for us to be able to afford to be able to do that. In some of our communities, though, we do have, we have 24-hour coverage. We do that through a combination of a live-in maintenance staff in some of our communities, or we have 24-hour staffing where that person's not, they're not a medical professional, but there's somebody who's on site. They can at least get there if somebody pulls their pull cord or if somebody calls for help. They can get there and then coordinate whatever other help they might need. So we'll have some more work to do to figure out what's right here based on.
That's the question I'm sure other complicated.
Yeah.
Visual housing. One hour, things like that.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Thank you. And it is a, it's another question. It's another one of those things that we'll want to be very upfront about with, our partnership with and our need of the emergency responders in town. I mean, we work very closely with our emergency responders in every town that we're in. And because of the supports and the connections that are made, we do everything we can to keep those emergency trips down because there's so much communication happening up front. Obviously, it happens. So I would say it doesn't, but we try to keep that down.
Good news, of course, as you all know, if and when they do occur, and of course they will occur, the site is such a very close proximity to Station 2 on Central Street as well as to the police station as well. So, site that will be very accessible to the emergency responders.
Excellent. Anything further from the committee?
Question.
Oh, sure, Harry, please.
Mentioned passive house, and I went online and looked up a little bit about that. That's actually a state program.
So passive house takes into consideration aspects and elements of everything. So some of the elements that are incorporated have to do with aspects of building insulation to encourage air circulation, have thermal type buildings, as well as reducing heat island effects, depending on how the area is zoned from a national risk index perspective. So with our design approach, it's mostly geared to reducing the carbon footprint, while also ensuring that we have not only accessible housing, but also comfortable housing that promotes energy efficiency and sustainability. So that's basically the realm of passive house design and what it encompasses.
Now, these homes, if I could follow up on that, you're not intending on doing geofracking or anything like that. No, you're just going to maximize efficiency, positioning, building.
Like with solar.
Certain. Yeah, there'll be
Like
solar.
with solar on the roof.
On the roof. Excellent. Yeah. They take down trees for solar.
Yeah.
They also understand the need, the roofs for big place.
Yeah.
Utilize that. Thank you. Thank you. So
I'll make sure John didn't have a question. John, did you have a question?
yeah. All right. So with that said, if there's nothing further from the committee, I would accept a motion to accept the pre-application and encourage a full application.
So moved.
So Rich Terry made the motion. Michael, do you want to second it?
Sure.
All right. Mike, did you have a comment or are you?
I was just seconding it.
Okay, good. Thank you. There's no further discussion on the motion. I'm going to take a roll call vote. Michael?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Rich? Yes. Hey, John, what's your vote to move forward here? Yes. Thank you. And the chair votes yes. I want to thank you all for your time tonight.
I do have one quick
Please.
Procedural question, if I may, Mr. Chairman. We're aware of course, that because this involves real estate, the committee is required to get an appraisal.
We're not purchasing the real estate.
Okay, so it's only for purchase.
Correct.
Okay.
So this would be considered a community housing application.
Okay, very good.
The only requirement, Barry, you want to correct me if I'm wrong, but that we need is the deed restriction, the affordability.
Yes, no problem. Okay.
As far as the details on that, I'm gonna lean on Barry.
Okay.
Work that out with you guys.
The other thing is you already own the property.
Right.
Yeah, you own
In
it.
the nature of the, because the requirement is that, the committee can't, lend or approve more than what the value of the property. We're certainly not concerned about that. I just, and I may have been mistaken, I was under the impression that because it was real estate, even though we own it, we still have to have house, appraisals and so forth. But if not, then
I'll check into it just. to make sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
just to make sure, but I don't believe so.
Okay. And then the only other thing, we are looking to get the full app in by the October 25th deadline. And as soon prior to that as we possibly can. As Deb mentioned, this is very much a work in progress with a lot of moving parts, but we are definitely going to meet that deadline, and we look forward to the opportunity to come back before you to present that full application for the committee.
Excellent.
I appreciate your time tonight and the rest of you back there.
And I mean, from our perspective, my experience has been these sorts of applications can take as many as 2 meetings, 3 if good information and communication isn't had. We certainly have plenty of time to do that. I wouldn't think, I think you've been pretty open and transparent. We've given you our concerns tonight, there's a few, but you certainly know the direction we want to go.
That's why we wanted to get this process started as soon as
Yeah.
possible and get it in a little bit earlier than the deadline required so that we can get everything moving.
As soon as you get it, then send it to Barry, he'll review it, make sure it's, we just read it, and we'll schedule it at our next meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
I appreciate the support of everybody. Looking forward to working with you guys.
Again.
Once again.
Thank you, Barry.
Thank you all. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Rich.
We're counting on you, Barry, to get it done.
Thanks, Michael. John, Dwight, thanks, guys.
Bye, Barry.
Good night. Thank you so
You
much.
as well.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
You take care. We'll look forward to seeing you again.
Likewise.
Thanks, guys.
All right, next item tonight is discussion on creating an active recreation, CR for Glen Echo. Matt Cashone, Director of Recreation, is with us tonight. Good evening, Matt. Let me turn this to you. So, there we go. So Barry, you want to give us a brief background on how we got here, and I'm going to turn it over to Matt, or you?
Sure. No, I'll glad to do that. Glen Echo, because we purchased the CPA funding, requires conservation reserve. And the way it was set up was to have a small area, relatively small, 6.7 acres, dedicated to active recreation for the remainder of the crossing. And dedicated space, passive recreation. So the conservation restriction that was set up for the open space excludes the active recreation crossing. You still have active recreation conservation.
That entails, correct me if I'm wrong, getting a third party.
To hold the restrictions?
That's correct. So we need to start reaching out. That was just research on it. So again, it can't be.
I did a little, I mean, you don't have something in place yet. So, but yeah, I mean, I have
Yeah, so Barry can be a resource for you as well on that.
my idea was to have something in place to go to the river rather than saying.
Alright. So, do we need a plan in place first, like, hey, we want to do this plan?
We need a plan.
Okay.
So they know what they're signing up.
I don't think I'm stepping out. When I spoke with, Mark Tisdale, he had said you had expressed interest in a, sort of like a Frisbee golf program. That's a pretty low impact situation for the space, which in my opinion, and I'll give it to the committee as well, but, you know, the less the impact, the better. However, it is a, you know, an active recreation item. My only thoughts, if you did go that way, is this going to be run by the town? Is it going to be run by a nonprofit? How does that, like, those are questions.
So I'll go to credit back to Ron. I thought it was great because of like the low impact it was.
Yeah.
You know, luckily you guys aren't here because my printer kind of broke, so I only had two.
That's okay.
I'll send Dwight and Michael, I'll send you guys this. It's really just.
You have to.
Yeah, I'll send it.
Thank you, Eric. I saw you come in.
It's really just an overview of frisbee golf as a sport, how to get into it. So, like Mark said, it's really low impact. There are a lot. I think there's over 300 around the country. They vary, right? You got your championship course, state of the art, you know, on like 40 acres of land.
Like a golf.
It's a golf course. And then you got your recreational one where people do it. They build them around schools, they build them around parks. A lot of people can do it on 2 to 3 acres of land. You know, we had one when I went to college. We had one, and it was around campus, and you know, it was just maintained by the school. There's not much maintenance to it, so for anyone that doesn't know what frisbee golf is, pretty much like golf, but use a frisbee. If you're really, you know, playing legit, you have like, you know, like the driver frisbee, which is heavier weight. It goes all the way down iron to a putter. Actually, a putter, I think, is the heaviest weight. And, you know, it's just like golf. You start at a tee box. The tee box can either be made, you know, whether it's a gravel square. A lot of the times people put down these like hard plastic mats, concrete, and there's a big chain basket. They throw towards obviously least amount of throws. That's the object of the game, scorecard. But like what I like about it is, like we said, it's low impact. Anyone can really play. You don't need to purchase yourself a full on bag. What they call them? Yeah. You can just get a frisbee and go play. Back in college, me and my buddies, you play puzzle golf and baseball and that way. So I just think it'd be really cool, especially with Glen Echo. Like the one thing that I love about Glen Echo is the simplicity of it. This is a beautiful park that just like has walking trail, biking trail, with great long benches, water view. That's it. Like gorgeous. So I think this doing frisbee golf would really tie into it. And add a piece to it. You know, parents at the park, kids wanting to go play around the frisbee golf course. Like I said, maintenance is not much, and that's the beauty of this is we build it how we want it, so we can build it in a way where it's going to be low maintenance for us. It's going to be just, hey, you know, break in the tee boxes every once in a while, but depending on what we build it at. Fixing the chain every so often. I've looked up, so what you're buying for equipment is really the chain itself, the poles. Recreationally, they range 9 holes at around $35,000 to $4,000 for a set. Obviously, double that for 18.
So under $10,000 for the equipment.
Yeah. And if you want, you get fancy. In this packet, I'll send you guys. You'll see a whole range of different signs they have. So, like when you're teeing off or throwing off, you can get a really fancy sign that'll show you the entire hole, the yard, and stuff like that. Or you can just get a sign that says, you know, hole 5, part 3. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
So I just think this could be a really neat idea for flag.
Now, I know that at special town meeting, there is a rezoning on this, and I just want to kind of clear that up. So part of this is zoned general business, this area.
Correct, Harry. It is. I'm not sure exactly on what part of the property is to go. The interior business area is a square shaped area that must have been put in place to accommodate when there was a swimming area. Many years
There's
ago.
nothing there.
There was a nightclub there too.
It was a nightclub.
Till the
Yeah,
70s.
yeah.
I'm kind of looking at some of these odd things in here. So they don't serve a common purpose. And in this case, this having been brought to my attention, it may have been an issue with setting this up on the part of the property zone business. Which granted isn't much of this 6 acre area.
But they, given that the town, and this is really why I brought it up, given that the town wants to change it to an RC residential zone, that would clear up any possible problems with what matters.
It's definitely about it.
Okay,
Which is what the entire rest of the plan is.
yes.
Except for that square that's made by 200 bucks.
So just for members, full transparency, that was really the reason I brought that up. If we did decide this was a good active recreation purpose, we may have had a zoning issue unless, of course, this does get changed on Bill Roth's side at the town meeting coming up. So continue, Matt, sorry.
Other than that, it wouldn't be something like Cedar Hill Golf Course where, you're paying to play, or just, go play. We wouldn't have to abandon stack it or anything like that. To be open to the public, say, no, it's a park. Just try to build it into the park as best we can, not chop down trees, green giant fairways, probably be just clearing some underbrush. Like if they build it,
So there'd be a minor impact on the area. Yes, please, John. So John's question is, this started as a conservation easement discussion, and hasn't been decided who? John, the answer at this time is no. The reason we're talking about usage is because nobody will carry an active recreation restriction without a usage. So it's kind of the chicken and the egg have to be looked at the same time. Does that make sense to you, John? Yep. Sure. So just so the rest of the committee that is online hears John's question, his other concern would be, even though he likes the Frisbee golf idea, he wants to ensure that it won't impact people using the bigger space, hiking, that it will interact properly with those using that area for other things than Frisbee golf. Matt was nodding his head vigorously, so I'd be guessing that he understands that. Do you want to respond, Matt, or?
yeah, we definitely have to design it in a way where we avoid that, considering where the active parcel is. Pretty confident we could accomplish that. It being most of the tables all in great lot. Yeah, I'm not too worried. I don't think you guys have maps too for the golf courses. Like I said, they build it into parks, it's in the parks. It's pretty cool if that's what like Frisbee golf course. So I wouldn't be
So if Matt was to come to us for an application for that Frisbee golf, which doesn't sound like a huge investment, John, that would certainly be a
You froze.
He did.
Mark, you're frozen. Nothing's coming through from you right now.
We can still see Matt moving, but
Can you hear me now, Dwight?
Somebody else speak, I'm having trouble hearing you guys. Mike, can you speak?
can you hear me?
Yeah, or me.
I can hear Dwight.
But Mark, you were muted, Mark, in that last screen. That I saw.
It now says you've left the meeting, Mark. One of you two.
Is that better, guys?
I can hear you now. Yeah, move your finger.
Yeah,
Okay, we can hear you.
you're back.
Yeah.
Sorry, technical difficulties. John, you had one last question, is that correct? Right, and I'm gonna ask Barry to answer that for you, John, but I'm gonna repeat it to the rest of the committee so they get it as well. John is questioning whether or not we need a usage for active recreation restriction. I've been through this with Barry a number of times, so I'm gonna let Barry answer that question. Go ahead, Barry.
First, the conservation restriction would restrict single use. It would be a range of uses. We talked about it before, starting with things we definitely don't want to see. Restricting those. But it wouldn't be written so that only Frisbee golf would be allowed. It would be classified as range of uses in some way, described in the conservation restriction. So that
Well, we've been unsuccessful to this point to get one because they want to know what a usage would be.
John had, just to repeat what John's question was, that it's not possible to describe every conceivable allowable activity that we want. I do understand and I agree with that. To be honest, I don't really know for sure how to describe the range of uses. So I think we probably need to talk to town council or something. Put this together.
Did those of you online hear Barry clear enough? No?
No.
So the bottom line is we're gonna have to work with town council to figure out how we want to word the restriction. So we're not inadvertently taking one thing out, but we gotta have sort of a plan. John's questioning whether or not it's both a chicken and an egg situation. It kind of is. We need to know what we want to eliminate, but we also need to have a range of what we want to see happen there. I guess we thought it would be easier if the town simply had a use for it and we could sort of back out of it that way. Is that the general?
No, but my idea was for the town to have a use would give us, let's say, a range of ideas, what we would allow. Even though the town would say has a single use in mind, you could still, okay, frisbee golf was one idea, but let's say you'd be okay also with ever pick something else. I agree with okay, just to repeat what John said, he says he agrees that we should go to town council and see how do we grab something.
Matt, you're comfortable with that approach? I would still continue with this is what we intend on doing, concept.
I think it slows it down.
Yeah, it's what sort of held us up to this.
I mean, we're not talking about, football, for example. Or motocross.
Or a minor league football, company or something. Well, we've seen that sort of thing, so.
Well, it's interesting because the owner who passed away recently, when she sold the property, had a restriction that there not be team sports regularly while she was still alive. Not that the town was doing that. That was up to her, not to see.
I think she meant team sports in the sense of organized, professional, yeah. All right, so where do we want to go with this discussion? What's the ultimate goal here?
Next step would be to bring down council discussion.
Okay. So can you initiate that discussion, include Matt? And hopefully by October, we'll have something and let him know that we'd like to see something by October so that we can start to wrap this portion of it up. Okay. Dwight, you have your hand up, and Michael, you have your hand. I don't know who went up first.
Yeah, I did, I think. It's important, I mean, when eventually we're talking to Frisbee Court to see some view, and maybe you have it on a paper in front of you, like where the proposed hoops would be, baskets on the site. And my concern is just so one can hike around them and not be too impeded by because the picnic tables are down in front of that site. I think it's doable, but it's important for me to see exactly, and you may not know yet, where the stanchions are being put in. And two, at Borderland, they have this in now. So if anybody wants to take a look at it, I haven't studied the Borderland stuff, but I know they have such a golf course over there, Frisbee golf.
Matt, are you intending on coming to the CPC for funding for something like this, or have you not given that much thought yet?
I probably would just think about it. Depends on how I can like I go for it. I get like 35% without how I operate.
Yeah. You're making an 18, you might want.
Right. I'll be honest, I haven't walked this brand. I haven't walked this on what they're out there before, so.
So we have until what, 24 to have a full application in? So you kind of know where you're at timing wise.
Yes. I'm gonna get with Larry, the GIS department tomorrow. He loves this kind of stuff. Like GPS and Bitcoin, everything. I'm gonna have him tomorrow. I'll stay out.
All right.
So we can talk about. So I want to just talk about some DPW. That's on the garage. So we can do together.
Yeah. I mean, because there's two tracks going on. One is the building the facility.
Right.
The other ones have participation.
Yes.
But I think you're gonna sort of begin, work on the conservation restriction at this point, as John said, we're at a point where we can do that. And Matt can start working on the design and stuff. Michael, was that it, Dwight? I'm sorry.
Well, just one final thing that if, yeah, assuming this is all going to happen within the 6-acre active recreation, but I believe isn't some of that already taken up by parking and other things? So if indeed, I have trouble seeing 18 holes there, but it's possible in the future that some of the holes to be spatially appropriate might go over the line into, what's on paper conservation restriction. I can just imagine that happening, and in some cases you might consider a waiver or a transfer so that the parking is off, doesn't eat into the 6-acre active requirement. But that's down the road. But I can see that, that space is limited because it's taken up by parking, picnic tables, and other things, I believe. So that will be a space restriction if we're going to stay inside that 6 acres with the current footprint, I think. But again, to see the space and look at the potential locations, I mean, the proof will be in the pudding when we do that. So that's down the road, but it's a concern.
Thank you, Dwight. Duly noted. Michael, you've been very patient. Thank you.
No, that's fine. It's good discussion. I think the idea of the Frisbee golf is a good idea with the comments from Dwight. I mean, do we have enough space to really do it and without interfering with other uses? I think that's all important stuff that we would have to take into consideration. But I think as a use, it's a great thing. I know my son-in-law and my other daughter's boyfriend love to play Frisbee golf. They've been over to Borderland that Dwight mentioned, and down here on the Cape, they go and play as well. And the other one is a question for Matt, that another potential use that comes to my mind that might be a little bit more controversial would be pickleball.
I knew that was kind of coming from you.
Well, it's Mark, you and I had some previous discussions about some of the issues that I've seen with pickleball courts in highly residential areas that become quite the annoyance to the neighbors. So somewhere out here might be a great spot to throw 3, 4, 6, whatever pickleball courts and let the public go at them. It's a great growing game.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, I just wanted to say to that, can you hear me? I guess not.
Not very good.
Yeah. What I was going to say is that you can design a disc golf course to include other facilities such as tennis courts or pickleball courts, I believe. In other words,
So you can integrate more than one.
It's not
use.
necessarily an either or.
So it's possible, Michael, if the room is there, you could have a couple of pickleball courts and a 9-hole, Frisbee golf.
Yeah, no, that I think those both are very good uses and would be great additions to the town.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. I'll do some research into that. I like that.
All right, well, don't put it on the long finger if you want the money this year. So, any other members have any comments about this at this point? Hearing nothing, I'm going to give the opportunity for the public to speak. I know there are a couple of members of the public here with us that may or may not have an opinion. If you do, please raise your hand or unmute yourself. Hearing nothing, we're going to move on to the next item, which is an update on the Glen Echo project. This is also Matt Cachone, and I believe Eric Coleman, you're still chair of the Glen Echo committee. Is that correct? Yep, I see your head nodding up and down. So the chair of the Glen Echo committee is with us. Not hearing you. You're unmuted, but I'm not getting any sound out of you. Still no sound. No. So, Barry, you want to give us a brief overview of where we're at, or can we just go right into it?
All right.
Okay.
So I checked in with, Frank from the engineering department. Everything is set up. There's lots that need to be done. There are still some blue temporary draft rails up there, so I'm gonna order, I'm gonna order the mask for legit. All the nice ones. The LED lights are in.
Yep.
Working. I haven't had an issue with the gate quite some time. That's good.
Great. So is it fixed? I mean, is the communication?
Yeah, so we were having issues at the very beginning of getting that started, and we were getting locked in, so that they have to drive down there, pop out. I haven't had that in a while, so I have an app on my phone that connects the gate. So I theoretically check it, so if someone hits the button, I actually know.
So it goes to you as well.
It doesn't alert me, but I have a function where I can look up,
You can look up.
hey, Mark, that's gate 8 o'clock.
You stop.
Trying to punch in. So knowing that there's been a lot of people stuck in, and I haven't heard from the police department or anybody else, that's been good. We did put a portable bathroom up there. That's being taken care of monthly by a company. So we'll probably do that like April to October. Of the residents, things like that.
Is it a handicap accessible?
Handicap accessible one. It's right on the pad, right next to the one that's
Where they were originally. Up
Yeah.
on the right-hand side
Yes,
of
on
the
the
parking lot,
right-hand
yeah.
Other than that, I do know there was the DPW, there was like a old well that DPW built in,
Mhm.
hazards, they built that in. And I believe we have a picnic table we still need to install. I know Eric,
One or two.
I believe two. I know Eric was talking about it, they wanted to put it up on the ledges. And I know Craig and our town went up there. We need to pick. Awesome.
Okay.
So, like I don't know if you want
Look for a shaded area to put.
right. Just one for spot.
Yeah.
There's a small amount of money left in the account, and rather than close it out, have to start the whole thing again. We'll leave it open. for everything. Yes, that's not part of this project, however, that would be part of the,
Purchase, right?
the acquisition, and there's still money left in that, to do that. Just want to repeat, Bill, to hear what John Morton said, we still have to take the active conservation restriction.
But that came out of the sale, John. Yeah. So John's question was, do we have a sense of how many people are using it, Matt?
I'm not sure. That's a great question. I got a lot of compliments on it. A lot of people are very happy with it. I get a lot of phone calls in summertime. I can't really tell. I'm not there every day.
John,
I'm not sure.
Matt was basically saying he doesn't have any actual numbers. I have had to use the spillover parking up there on more than one occasion, so it's pretty active when I go up, and generally it's an end of the day or first thing in the morning kind of thing. It's getting used a lot. We'll see how that plays out, over the course of the years, but I think this has been a good investment for the town, sir. Are you using the park for any recreation programs at this time, Matt?
We haven't yet, but we've definitely
Do you
discussed.
intend on it?
Oh yeah, we definitely discussed a couple things.
So nothing yet, John, but it's something they want to do. No problem.
Question.
Yes, please.
Does the gate keep the town how many times it opens and closes? If it does, have to give you an indication.
Well,
No,
it
it's
doesn't
open all day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really close at night. So
Yeah.
if you're stuck, it'll open again, but
Maybe put up one.
yeah, you could.
I
a great question to have.
Hmm.
Good data.
Dwight?
Well, I know, so I can assure John, the library has sponsored 2 walks up there that I've run, and they were very well attended. A new trail has been put in that goes really down toward Pine Street. It's never been there before. It goes by the historical sign that our society put in 1896. So, I mean, my sense is yours, that there are usually a lot of people there for their own purposes. I think as a Glen Echo committee, we're gonna have to come to terms with, 1, getting the last picnic table in, and 2, some kind of maybe better way to get kayaks in and out, because right now, someone just has to kind of wade in and out. So those are 2 things that I think we as a committee have on our plate.
Did you hear all that, John? Great, thank you.
Yeah, well, I think on the kayak portion of it, we should talk to the Eagle Scouts, Boy Scouts. They're looking for projects right now.
Get a profile doc in that, or profile.
Yeah, one of them's gonna build a new lifeguard carrying pond, but they mentioned like a kayak holder or something like that to them already.
Yeah.
They did the Ames Pond one said, but I bet you did lots of that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's something more like a dock or a jetty that one can stand on to step down into the kayak. Because right now, you put your kayak in the mud, step into the mud and get into your kayak, especially given when the water is low. And so for older people too, and I mean, it can be done, but it's just, we had talked about the possibility of using one of the rafts from Ames Pond that they don't use. But again, it's a question of someone deciding we're going to put it in there. I have heard from conservation that there's a Girl Scout who's taking GPS listings of the trails up there. So there will be a GPS approved or created map of the Glen Echo trails before long, if Jerry's correct.
that sounds like something that, the Glen Echo committee should look into, and Matt, if you can help sort of spearhead the dock idea, that would be, so I wouldn't want to get into a muddy kayak, so, okay, thank you, Eric. So that's a couple of things to, think about and look into. Other than that, any other discussion on the Glen Echo project at this time? We're not prepared to close this, is that correct? Okay. All right, hearing nothing else on this, I am going to move on to the Halloran Sports Arena, item 9. And this is also a Macatone project. So what's going on with this, Matt? I know we were anxious to get this going and hasn't happened yet. So
Yeah, little held up engineering department. That they did do it. They just got big accolade. Martin Goldrich, man, with their operations planner. They were behind. However, during that phase, I wasn't able to carry out the board themselves. So those are all paid for. I'm ready to go. Scott Fez I've been working with, I believe they're out in New Jersey. He's actually come up here, he met with me. So he knows where we're at, done the same project, Franklin, on full steel. Then today, I got the, multi-sport court. This is the trap for the playing board. So they're getting on we're trying to get on the October 12th. So they are going to snip it somewhere.
do you have a sense of whether or not this is going to get poured this year, or is it not going to happen this year?
I'm just not sure how long it takes to once this is passed, if we did it, we'll help you out to do it. I don't have experience in this.
And the weather is getting warmer, so we could pour concrete later. Yeah, at this point, I agree. So this is a particular type of surface. It's a post-tension surface. Can you sort of get a feel from the company? Have you hired somebody at this point?
No, we're waiting to go through.
And then you're gonna go up to bid. Okay. Try and get a feel for how late in the season they can pour. And then maybe just send Barry an email with, you know, I'm feeling like this is probably gonna happen spring versus the fall. Hey, I sold we can do this until January 1. Whatever the answer is.
We'll have to bid out.
I know.
So it might be like company C might get it, company C might be, or backlog, so that's.
We won't hold you to it, but give us a sense as to whether or not you feel like this is definitely something that's gonna happen this fall, or it's most likely gonna happen this fall. Simple sense of it, we won't pull out the guillotine quite yet.
It was like the engineering is still in progress.
No, they're done, they're submitting.
Done.
It's submitting on the planning board, so this is about.
Has it applied for it?
This is their application, so they're trying to get on the October 12th.
All right. Just any sort of, even if it's, yeah, whatever. That's fine, as long as we know it.
Okay, but it's in motion.
Yeah, it's in the happy area when they get into the board purchase. No, it's slower than.
No, well, it is a little bit, but thank you for coming and being transparent with us. Anything from the members on this before we move on? Hearing nothing? All right, thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah.
Right.
So item 10 is the Vital Records project. I know Stephanie is on with this tonight. The town clerk, do you want to put this for the next meeting? So, folks, I'm going to table item number 10, which is the Vital Records project, because the applicant is not with us tonight. Also, item 11, fire engine restoration. This was the antique fire engine. I think it was in 2021 that the funds were applied to. We want to table this as well.
No, I did get a response from Joe McCrisky,
Okay.
and the restoration is underway. Can people hear me?
Yes,
Okay,
Okay,
so the
thank you.
restoration is underway. The engine has been removed from the fire engine and sent out to be rebuilt. I did get a list of things that have happened already. They've removed the hose, the hood, the bed, they removed the fenders and the running board. They've taken it apart. It's being restored. And he says from this point, it would still be probably another, let me just, before I give you an answer. Yeah, he estimates another 18 months from this point until it's ready.
So another year and a half before it's ready.
Yeah.
Wow. It will, hopefully. Okay, anything beyond that?
I'm glad to see again. I know it takes a long time, but I'm glad to see that it is moving forward. It is happening.
Any questions from the members?
none.
Okay. John, any questions? No. Okay, thank you. All right, moving on, item number 12, update on Atkinson Ave parking lot. This is for the CR, the conservation restriction. You want to table this until October? So I'm gonna table item number 12 because the applicant is not with us tonight. But we'll get that on our October. Which brings us to item number 13, which is an update on the Cape and Reynolds Stanton grant status. Rich Terry is with us, so Rich, take it away.
Okay, basically, the Stanton grant, there are two of them. We are in the process of getting the first one, which will pay for the redesign of just the dog park within the confines of the fence by one of the Larson landscape architects who are a known entity to the Stanton Foundation. The design will meet all of Stanton Foundation's criteria. 5-foot high fence, they reconfigured the gates to be square as opposed to triangular. They changed the surface and material from wood chips to stone dust, which is a preferred cover. I've actually seen that at the Acton Dog Park. And I was a little skeptical. I have to say I was dead wrong. Dogs like it. The owners say their dogs like it. In addition to that, they included a watering device both for people and the dogs, so that it will be positioned between the large dog park portion and the small dog park portion. So one of these devices will service watering the dogs and the adults, regardless of where you are. Water Landscape has said they can do that for $25,000, which also includes incorporating all of their design changes into our bid set. So it becomes part of the bid set. And they will also be part of the on-site oversight during the construction.
Project management or?
They'll be overseeing the portion which they designed for the dog park. The chain link fence will be modified a little bit as well to have a gate that will allow a small dump truck back in for future maintenance purposes, such as replenish stone dust as needed. They also recommended that we be very selective in removing trees that meet the criteria of 6-inch diameter at breast height, but to try to clump the trees in such a way that we have clusters. And they've given engineering. The engineering team for this project consists of Craig, our assistant town engineer, and his assistant, Nick Frank, he's a relatively new engineer. So they have overseen all of this. Based on that, the town signed off on approving their design. And we have sent that back to the Stoughton Foundation along with our letter of assurance, which states that we will go by the rules that they set. Town manager signed off on that. That is in their hands now. So the Stoughton Foundation will be submitting a check to the town to pay the landscape architect.
And that's for phase one.
That's just for, yes,
Yeah.
get it into a bid, get it into the bid. And then once the bid is sent out, we can have hired somebody. Then Stoughton Foundation will submit to us another grant totaling 90% of the hard costs, which is currently estimated at between $218,000 and $225,000 for the max.
And they'll give us 90% of that.
They'll give us 90%, yeah, 90%. But 90% of the total cost up to 225. So our net from the Stoughton Foundation expected to bring 218 to 225.
Okay. So we're gonna get the maximum, but.
I think we will, because we had gate in the front, made perfect sense.
Mhm.
Warner Lambert, Warner Larson was kind enough to give us a very conservative cost estimate based on their research of dog park in Saunders, which is just over to open. So they meet all the criteria for Stoughton Foundation for design company. They are experienced and accepted by Stoughton. I didn't bring it with me, but I will share it Barry and so all of you can see the complete work that's been done by Warner Lambert, Warner Larson, and also engineering, and also Greg Protecting this point contact with the town. Great. It's
So when
really,
can I get my dogs down?
so about the same time and half a park. So, $25,000, I hope it's coming shortly, for the landscape guys, and then incorporate it into the bid, get it on.
Well, your consistency with this and your hard work looks like it's paying off for the town. So thank you.
Well, I have to say thanks to the engineering for having the two people that are now giving us the support we need.
Agreed. Members have questions? Not hearing anything? You can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just, keep us informed as events come up.
I will. So
Let
I
us
get
know.
confirmation of what he's sent to us. I'll be the first to let you know.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Rich. Thanks for all your efforts. All right, item 14. update on Smack Video Project on the Stoughton Depot. Kevin, are you with us? I know you are, but are you with us in a manner that you can talk?
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can. The floor is yours.
No.
Can't
You
hear
guys there?
you.
Yeah, go ahead, speak.
Oh, sorry. I thought you guys were still talking. Yeah, things are going pretty good. I got everything I need except for getting inside the actual depot. I was told that I had to go in front of the select board. So I contacted Jilda. She was away on vacation, yada, yada, yada. But Jill McCrisky was supposed to let me in last week, but something came up. He wasn't able to come. So we're rescheduled for Friday. And then, yeah, once I get in there and get the footage, I should be able to start slapping it together and have something by the end of September.
Excellent. Any
Yeah, I
questions?
wanted to thank you guys, for all your help and support, and Dwight as well for being on camera.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Any questions from the members? Rich?
Kevin, this is Rich Terry. Do you intend to go up to the clock tower and video that portion as well?
Say that again?
Is your videography going to include the upper portion of the clock tower?
Yeah, Joe had said that he'd be able to get me up there, and I'm trying to get in contact with, I think it's Elliot Hanson's brother. One of the Hanson brothers had worked on the clock. Someone had mentioned.
George, maybe?
Sorry?
Elliot Hanson knows that clock tower very well.
Yeah. The only two that are available would be Elliot or George, would be my guess.
But you definitely got to go up there to video that portion. It's a straight climb up a straight ladder. So bring it back.
I don't know, you might get caught on something back. Okay, so nothing from the members. Thank you, Kevin, for the update. Continue to work on this and keep us updated as you make some progress.
Most
Yeah,
definitely.
thanks,
Thank you
Kevin.
very
I'm
much.
looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, me too.
Me too.
Continued business, item 15, Creek on reconstruction. Dwight, you want to give a quick rundown or do you want me to start it with the Concom? It's up to you.
Yeah, well, you and I went to Concom and they were on board. They agreed with our proposal to apply to have the barn refurbished based on the recommendations that came through the committee, and we'll have a pre-application in at the next meeting, and you'll get it before the 25th. I think the second question, Mark, also you can say more. I've got tentative permission to explore using the land that goes along with the barn for agricultural purposes, even though it was pointed out that the two may not be directly linked, even though when we put it in front of town meeting, they're going to ask what's the purpose of this for the barn. And that's based on the use of the land out back, which is up in the air right now. That's a little difficult to answer, but I'm also preparing to propose even part of the building for a farm museum. But Mark, you can add to that as you see fit.
Yeah, thanks, Dwight. So the conversation generally went very well. They did give us permission to lay the foundation of what an agricultural usage would be. This would be an incubator style cooperative of sorts, where the land that is tillable up there, meaning the land that can be turned and used for farming, would be separated out, and use would be allowed to budding farmers that are thinking about this as a career. There would be an educational aspect to it, and there would be a community aspect to it. Whether it be a community garden or some form of educational tool, with what Dwight said about the museum, that actually fits into the educational aspect of it as well. And the barn could additionally be used beyond education and in museum for storage. There will be need for the safe or dry storage of certain tools, seeds, possibly some fertilizers. Those are all going to need to be kept under cover. And at any rate, Conservation Commission was open to having us begin work on that plan. Barry and I are going to do some initial work on this, try and fill in some of the gaps. Dwight is, I believe, Dwight, you were to talk to the Historical Commission about an application which you spoke of just now, so I'm presuming that happened. And we're going to put something onto the annual, sort of giving both the restoration, but the reason why we want to do this. You know, from a CPC perspective, this could be really simple. It's a barn of historical significance. And, you know, frankly, if we don't do what we're being suggested to do, it's going to fall down and cost the town specifically a lot of money to clean it up. That's really the base explanation of what we are doing. However, I feel very strongly that having that agricultural use attached to it is going to make a big difference for people. Just to preserve a barn for the sake of preserving it, a lot harder to sell. To preserve a barn for good reason, because there's a future use for it, makes a lot more sense. But at any rate, yeah, John Morton, you're welcome too. I was just going to open it up to members. Go right ahead. That is correct. The conservation, that's correct. The Conservation Commission does not control the barn, only the property that we're talking about for agricultural use. Continue, John. Right. So for those of you who did not hear everything that John said, I'm going to give as good a synopsis as I can. he was pointing out two major or basic points. One, although Conservation Commission controls the tillable land, they do not control the barn. It's the town itself who controls the barn. The second piece of it is the Conservation Commission doesn't believe they can dictate what kind of agricultural use happens there. Only that any agricultural use would have a public participation component. He referred to a farm in Easton, which I'm pretty sure he's talking about Langwater Farm, that does have many public participation opportunities. Everything he said is accurate. Our job, meaning what Barry and I are initially going to work on and include Dwight, Town Council, and some others, is to get a sense of this is sort of the path we're looking to see happen. How that happens is dictated by whomever applies. And I believe the Conservation Commission reserves the right to deny a project they don't see as a good use of the land. But at the end of the day, you're getting the gist of what's being spoken about. Barry and I we've already sort of gotten a historical background, which I'm going to run past Dwight again because you were the one who provided that material that we compiled that background from. And a general overview of what we see as a possible usage for the area. We'll present that back to the Conservation Commission with sort of a game plan. And we do intend on talking to the Southeastern Farm Bureau for not only their insight, but their assistance in helping to create this program. Medway has a community farm. There were a couple others in the area, southeastern Massachusetts area, and we don't have a desire to recreate the wheel, only, utilize that wheel for Stoughton's purposes. So we'll have more about this. I think we're looking to go back to Conservation Commission before the end of the year with a plan to move forward with. I feel pretty comfortable that we can get that done, and we'll go from there. It's sort of to give you all an update, the public an update as to where we're at with this project at this time. Yeah, John just mentioned, we also need to go to the Board of Selectmen, and I believe I've already asked Barry to assist Dwight in getting that ball rolling. So you're right, John, that has to be done as well. Anything more on the West Street Barn reconstruction? Dwight, you want to add something?
Well, just a couple of other options that are mixed in. I'm sure will be interesting to see what kind of response we get, but we have, and another possible one in the future is actually have community gardens in there, given the space for that. That would kind of depend on how the other options come to fruition or don't. And two, I have heard that Charlie McNamara's grandson wants to keep the farm going. I believe he actually is the one who paid the land and baled it, and then his baler broke. But the upkeep of how that hay gets cut has been kind of an uneven thing, and everybody's glad whoever cuts it, I think, since Ed stopped leasing it. But I'm just throwing him in as another possibly aspiring young farmer who might have some role in it too. That's all.
Yeah, a cooperative system would fit very well for somebody like him, Dwight, who has the will and desire, but maybe not all the pieces that are required to do this. Unfortunately, as we all know, farming is more expensive than it used to be. This could be a great opportunity for him as well. It's really a fledgling idea right now, so if members have other thoughts, hey, what about incorporating this, that, or the other? That would be great. I know we have a number of residents in town who are into, be apiary, is that the right word? Apiary? Yep. So, and bees are vital to healthy crops. So, you know, we really do want to see community participation assisting those young farmers and it all sort of coalescing and working together. So any further thoughts, Dwight, please, you know, let us know what they are and we could try and incorporate those in. That's important.
I just want to let you know, I've already started working on the pre-app. So
Good.
I got a draft I'll send to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Anything more on the bond right now? Hearing nothing, let's move on to the historic preservation restriction for the depot. Dwight, you did meet, I take it, at the historical commission?
Well, this is the Historical Society that's being asked, society. And
Yeah.
yes, the society agreed in principle to take on that responsibility. Of course, depending on how exactly it's worded, I think a draft of a possible one was sent to me, which I distributed to everyone, and there were no objections to it. So I think we have a official thumbs up. You know, we haven't signed the document yet, but we've agreed in principle to do it.
Barry, your next step would be to get that before town council and vet it, et cetera.
Well, there's some questions I had in the draft. You can do a historic preservation restriction. Can you hear me, Dwight?
Yep.
Okay. You can do a historic preservation restriction. It only covers the exterior of a building. But I think in this case, there's some interior features we want to preserve. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we need to get a little bit more specific about that. If you can get back to me and let me know how we do that so that they are included. Because the model that the state has is one that does not include any interiors. I don't want to put it through that.
Did you see the questions from Barry, Dwight?
No, I saw the document that he sent, but I haven't heard his follow-up questions until now that I know.
We're gonna have them, send them again to you, Dwight.
Okay. I missed them if they were sent. But it is so how to word it so that they would, if I'm understanding correctly, the town and the society would agree in the document we signed to have some aspect of the interior protected as well.
I think there's enough pieces on the interior that are significant, where that should be considered, specifically the oak walls and ceiling. I mean, that's, you know, not to mention the old ticket booth area, things like that. I agree. I think it's definitely worth looking into different pieces. John Linehan just joined us, so hello to John. Okay, so you're gonna send him the question
I will
again.
send you the question.
Yeah, send him in a separate email, that way. Awesome. Thank you, Dwight, for your work on that, and we should have something before us soon.
We'll revisit it at our next meeting.
Excellent. Thank you. So the next item is the coalition dues. I want to take a little bit of liberty here, and I want to circle back to the discussion we had on the active recreation CR, really for the sole purpose of giving John Linehan an opportunity to weigh in on that. John, can you hear us? You're muted.
I can, and thank you, Mark. I understand why they have to make that zoning change, or I think I do. I was just a little concerned that there might be other ulterior motives to other nearby areas that might be having their zoning change to open it up to, obviously for the most part, there is very little value in general business in that area, but there might be a lot more value in residential development. And, especially if people had bought it under one pretext and then have it greatly enhanced by a zoning change, the value that is. So I don't understand where the other areas are without a map and how they might impact Glen Echo and how nearby they are, where they're located, et cetera.
I did look all of them up. I don't think any of the other two are particularly close to Glen Echo.
You're talking about the other zone?
The other two rezoning issues.
No, we're concerned specifically about the area at Glen Echo, correct, John?
Well, for my open space purposes, I'm worried about everything, but Glen Echo is certainly number one. And Barry assured me that that's all within the Glen Echo boundary. It's not going to impact, any of the buffers or borders around it.
No, that was planned, and I didn't understand it either, John. I was like, why are we doing this? Apparently, and we discussed this earlier, which is, I saw your questions via email. The only reason I circled back to this, but as
And I
far as,
appreciate that.
yeah, as far as what happens on the Glen Echo site, changing this to residential is a benefit to us because it allows us to use that area for active recreation. That would be prohibited under general business. So
Yeah,
from that perspective, it's
that made perfect sense. Yeah.
Just for your information, John, the other two zoning areas, one is on Lambert Avenue, the other one is on Pleasant Street at Lincoln.
Barry, can you send those out to us in any way on maps?
I just looked them up on GIS.
You know, John, that's gonna come to you in the special town warrant they closed last night, so you'll get that information shortly.
It'll all be mapped out and everything.
Yes, and there's a draft available currently, although I don't know, how specific that draft is. I can't
Yeah.
attest to that.
Well, that one map we got was useful.
Did you have anything further on that, John, or is it?
No,
all right?
I apologize for being so late. I didn't think I'd be this long in my zoo thing, but I'm still in the office now.
Not a problem. I'm glad you could join us. So back to item 17, approval of payment of the Massachusetts Coalition dues. This is something we do every year. Barry, the total amount this year is?
Total amount this year is the same as last year and the year before, $3,500. We don't have an invoice yet, but I was thinking that we know what the amount is. We could approve the payments. Just have that submitted to the town.
Due in September.
It is due in September. Like I said, it's only the 6th. We haven't got an invoice yet, but there's no reason we can't approve it knowing we know what the amount is. So,
Can we make a motion to?
Yes, please.
I'd like to make a motion that we pay our dues to the coalition and stay. They're a great resource for us, certainly.
I will second it.
Thank you, Michael. Do we need or want to put a dollar limit on this, or are we better off just saying whatever the cost is?
It's $3,500.
You sure about that? So the limitation would be for $3,500, which is the totality of our dues. And Michael has a second. Any discussion? Hearing none by roll call. John Morton? John said yes. Michael?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
John Linehan?
Yes.
Rich? Yes. And the chair votes yes. Thank you. Approval of minutes from the August 2nd meeting. Do I have a motion to accept those minutes?
I have a couple of typos to point out.
Sure, go right ahead.
Pretty minor, but just to get them cleaned up. On project updates, number 7. On the 1, 2, 3, 4th line down, it says express the opinion that they believed it makes sense to wait another year would before requesting. I think the word would needs to come out there. It's just,
Got it?
And then on number
But how-
8,
Number 8.
Sense without the wood in there? I mean, wood, does it still make sense without wood or anything else needed?
no, I think
No, I
wood
think-
just kind of got accidentally in there. It makes sense to wait another year before requesting CPA funding.
Oh, take out B as well.
B where, I don't see B, but
Well, I did before, but when you, It-
The year
You can take out the wood.
before requesting. Okay, yep. So taking out wood grammatically makes it make sense, quite.
yeah. And then a little further down on number 8, the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th line up from the bottom on that page. It says, if it
Yeah.
made sense for the committee, will revisit. I think it should say to revisit.
Yes. See it?
And on the very bottom line there, where it refers to the October meeting, I was thinking of the public hearing, which is probably going to be in October anyway, but as opposed to our regular monthly meeting. In terms of the reference to talk about the documents and posting it, whatnot,
Yes,
if that makes sense.
it does. It doesn't change the minutes, correct?
Okay, yeah, no, it's not really a change, but I just wanted to clarify that I was thinking it made sense to talk about it at a public hearing versus at our own meeting.
Which we do.
That was
have.
it.
Okay. Any other comments on the minutes? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So made.
So moved.
I got Rich Terry, made the motion. Michael, you want to second it?
I'll second it.
Any discussion, further discussion? Hearing none. By roll call, John Morton? Yeah. Michael?
Yes.
White?
Yes,
John Lenahan?
Yes,
Rich?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. I just have a reminder on expired CPC terms for Ms. Alotu and Mr. Morton. Is this just to make sure that they got sworn in? Yep. John Morton, did you get sworn in? Excellent. Thank you so much for doing that.
Bundy is not here, so I don't.
Bundy's not here, so we're gonna put that on. Any unanticipated new business or emergency matters before us tonight? Hearing nothing. Our next meeting is.
Wait.
Whoop.
I thought,
Thought we were close.
what I'd like to do is, what we did last year is I put an ad in the suburban shopper. And that was how we got Paula Kaminsky to notice us.
Yep.
So I'd like to do the same thing this year ahead of our public meeting. Have it run twice in September.
This would be in the suburban shopper.
Correct. But the other thing we also have to do, because we have to advertise the public hearing, we have to advertise it in the enterprise, which is much more expensive, but that's what we have to do. That's what the town decided is to take record.
So do me a favor, reach out to Fred and Brooke Eden, our procurement officer, so the town gets a special deal.
Yes.
And yeah, I think it's $12.80 some odd cents. A copy for public advertisement. Like an enterprise. John Lenahan?
yeah, I was just wondering if we could put it in that town crier.
Yes,
Yes,
we can and we should. Yep. Absolutely. Thank you for that, John. We'll make sure that happens.
So I just, what we need is an authorization to pay for those ads.
So we're looking for a motion to.
Let's say 500.
We're looking for an authorization to spend up to $500 on advertising to the public to let them know.
Let's make it 1,000. I can't remember on the top.
Barry would like it amended to 1,000, but we still need a motion.
So moved.
All right, thank you. This is for advertising for the public hearing that we're required to do, and 2 advertisements to the public explaining the application process for CPC. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded. Okay. Further discussion? Hearing none by roll call. John Morton? Yes. Michael?
Yes.
Dwight?
Yes.
John Linehan?
Yes.
Rich? Yes. And the chair votes yes, so. Just let us know in October what it costs. Thank you. Our next meeting, as I said, was October 4th. We would like to schedule the annual public hearing at that time too. It will coincide well with the deadline for the full applications, which is the 25th of October. Is there any discussion to be had on that, or are we okay with that date of October 4th?
I'm good with it.
I'm good with it.
Fine.
All right, thank you. So we're going to set a public hearing date for October 4th as well. It'll be one meeting. Obviously, the advertisement doesn't need to talk about a regularly scheduled meeting, just the public meeting. That's for the one in the enterprise or the ledger. I would ask all members that represent authorities, committees, what have you, if you can give a brief summary perhaps of anticipated projects coming up or successes from the past, that is perfectly acceptable. And be prepared to answer any questions from the public, which I'm sure we're gonna get flooded with. So, at any rate, with that said, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
Second.
John Morton moved to adjourn. I heard Michael first on the second. By roll call, John Morton. Yes. Michael.
Yes.
Dwight.
Yes.
John Linehan.
Yes.
Yes. And the chair votes yes. I want to thank you all for being here tonight, and I want to thank the public for watching. Have a good night, all.
Good night.